Hey, wholesale rebels around the globe. This is Filip Maciejewicz, probably the hardest name to pronounce in Amazon business history. And welcome to our October 2022 wholesale community call. We're super excited to have you guys with us. I see we have a little bit of movement already on the channel, so that's great. And today we have a special call because I have a super special guest and friend, and we have with us together today Chelsea Cohen of SoStocked fame. Chelsea, great to have you with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to the call.
So I'm probably going to reveal a secret, but the fact is that you actually just came from holiday for us,
Yes.
all for the wholesale community. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay,
That's right.
so that's how committed we are here to give you guys some value and actually deliver. And today we have a special focus and topic, and we will talk a little bit about wholesale and inventory management. And there's no better person to talk to than Chelsea. So Chelsea, I'm super excited that you're with us here. Thanks again for finding the time.
Of course.
So I wanted to start with understanding kind of your story, and for our members to understand how you became personally connected to e-commerce and how SoStocked came to existence.
Sure. Yeah. I started selling in 2014 after a couple of failed business attempts, multi-level marketing, and found out about this Amazon course. Took it, business took off right away. It was a private label course. And from there, kind of grew within the community. In 2018, though, I was looking at how much money I was making versus how much money I was actually keeping, and was a bit disappointed in the profit margins there, as I'm sure most people are familiar with. So looked at what are those things that I could control. I can't control what my competitors do. I can't control what Amazon does with their fees, but I can control not running out of stock. And that year I'd run out of stock once for a month with my main product, and then once for a week as well. I had also had some overstock that was costing me a lot of money. So figured, okay, there's got to be a tool out here to help me with this, and looked at the various different options, and none of them really were working for me. Some of them were missing data. Some of them were missing just an understanding of the algorithm. They'd spit out a number and say, here's your magic number. We're not going to tell you how we got it, but here it is. And then I say, well, what about marketing? What about my third-party warehouse? What about all of these different things? And, so I started asking around in the community. The answer kept coming back, we've tried everything, nothing is working right. So we're back to spreadsheets, which to me seemed like an opportunity, being an entrepreneur. If a spreadsheet is working better than a software, there's got to be something wrong. And how can we take what is best about a spreadsheet and move it into a software, automate it, and make it better and do things that even a spreadsheet can't do? So that was kind of the basis of SoStocked.
So have you been previously interested a lot in inventory management, or are you the type of seller that just wants to understand everything to a very granular level? Because I do believe that inventory management is kind of, for tons of sellers, for a lot of sellers, is like kind of the thing that they just want to forget about and not even think about. It's kind of like cash flow. I think inventory management and cash flow are like, they are deeply connected, but they're also very often like, I don't even understand this. I don't want to look at this. Like, I'll just download the spreadsheet and try to understand tiny bit. But how did it come for you? Like, was it like, I see a problem and I want to find a solution, or inventory management has always been like kind of an interesting part for you?
Yeah, so not specifically inventory management. I did have 4 years as an account executive at a financial management firm. So numbers has always been very, very simple to me. Breaking down complexity. Before that, in another life in my 20s, I was a production manager and assistant director in film, which I don't talk about a lot. And one of the things that I did was take a script and you break it down and you say, okay, you read the script and you go, okay, they talk about a coffee mug. Okay, we have to make sure we have a coffee mug. They talk about this, they talk about that. Oh, there's purple curtains. We have to make sure there's purple curtains. And so you break it down. It's called script breakdown. You break it down for all of the elements and you make sure they're all there. So I guess that's one of the closest things. That and the finance side of things are the two closest things that are kind of hints that this was something that I might be kind of inclined to do.
So in my previous life as well, in my 30s, early 30s, I was actually also involved in movie production. So I'm from Poland originally, but I moved to Los Angeles and I lived for 2 years in LA, and I was writing scripts and directing independent movies. And
cool.
I know how you guys are just. Without you guys, without production managers and stuff, this whole thing would so much break apart. And that's a different conversation for a different different community. But it's so cool to find out that we're coming from kind of similar background. Yeah, and I found that there is a similarity in a way that if you want to be good at making movies, you also have to think about and always in the back of your mind have so many details. And partly that's why I like SoStocked a lot, is kind of it actually simplifies that whole process of remember about everything and remember about all those granular little details. And just going back to what you said is sometimes being overstocked or sometimes being out of stock. I think almost everybody had that nightmare of Christmas season coming, and then you never understand how much you should order, and you're either you end up having 5,000 units too much of something, or 5,000 units not sold, which is also not a good situation to be in. So maybe if we could transition and I wanted to ask you from a perspective of wholesale and wholesale sellers.
Yeah.
Could you give us a little bit of an introduction to SoStocked, and how do you believe the tool can help? Is this a tool, as you said, you started with private label, is this also a tool for wholesale?
Right, yes. So private label and wholesale, though they're both selling on Amazon, are two very different beasts when it comes to inventory. On the private label side, it's normally a lower number of SKUs, but the lead times are especially long, 90 days from the time they place their order to the time it actually arrives. On the wholesale side of things, it tends to be a quick turnaround, which is great for, you talked about cash flow. I'm obsessed with cash flow. Cash flow is going to be a whole topic for 2023, but the velocity of money, the amount of times you can turn over your money is far greater, though the profit margin tends to be slimmer. So it becomes very important to be able to turn over that inventory. And the complexity of inventory with wholesale tends to be the massive number of SKUs that you have. Some of them are more valuable than others to you. Some of them are, maybe sell one a week. Some of them maybe sell, 20 a day. Whatever it is, there are certain ones that you prioritize, but you want to try to keep as many of them in stock as possible if they're profitable to you. So it becomes difficult to, especially manually during a manual process, to keep track of all of that, to generate the POs for all of that. So SoStocked was designed to also help with that process, to make sure that you could keep track of all of your SKUs, you could prioritize them and tag them based on best sellers, and parse out data so that you could understand what is happening with your inventory, and then create the POs, auto-generate POs to help you to restock.
And I wanted to ask you, while we're on this topic, how much money do people lose? Do you think most sellers actually do good inventory management, or is there a lot to be changed?
Yeah. I think people have gotten more aware of inventory management. I think they were forced into that in 2020. There has been a lot of trouble with stock out because even though people have gotten better at inventory management and it's become a more popular topic, there have been supply chain problems and restock limits. So I would say most everyone could probably improve on inventory management, and most everyone would agree that that would be the case. And there are people who are, who are improving, but almost everyone is losing money in some way, whether that is because they're overstocked or because they're stocking out. You lose money on both sides of the equation. So having the interesting thing is that there aren't currently, and we can get into this a little bit later, but there aren't currently standard reports that people look at besides just their inventory levels. There's not these reports that say, okay, these products have been sitting here for X number of days. Most people don't know how many months they can keep a certain unit in Amazon or even at their third-party warehouse before they're actually losing money. And so those are things that I find extremely interesting and things that we will be addressing in 2023 to really understand your true profitability. But any way you slice it, as the months go on, that SKU is going to be less and less profitable because you're paying 83 cents per cubic foot on the off season and $2.40 per cubic foot on Q4 for that storage. So if you're not selling it, it's costing you money every single month.
And do you believe that SoStocked or inventory management in general is important from the beginning? Let's say somebody is just starting in wholesale and they have 4 or 5 SKUs versus the really big sellers. Is SoStocked already a tool that can help there? Or this should be thought more as a tool for mid-size or a bit more mature businesses? How do you look at that?
So SoStocked is very it's fairly advanced. It's kind of intermediate to advanced. I always like to encourage people starting out. You can get marketed all sorts of ways, and everyone's going to tell you, you're going to sign up, you're going to get excited, you're going to sign up for a bunch of things, and you're going to get flooded with emails that tell you that your business is going to fail unless you sign up for X. And that always bothered me as a seller and also as a coach in my first earlier years as a seller. So as far as I feel like if you're probably signed up for Helium 10 or Managed by Stats or something like that, you're probably signed up for these various different tools that probably have an introductory inventory management. That would probably be good enough for the beginning of your business or a spreadsheet. We actually have a free spreadsheet, a DIY spreadsheet at SoStocked.com/tools that you can download. And that should be good enough. And then as you start to scale and as you start to feel like it's getting really unwieldy, then you can start to transition to something like SoStocked, which gets much more granular, which allows you to scale up to that degree, and also becomes a lot more specific when it comes to sales velocity, because a lot of these tools get sales velocity wrong, which causes you to, if you're selling 15 units a day and you're using a tool that says you're selling 8 units a day, you're going to be stocking out. No matter how many times you order that, you're going to be running out of inventory because the data is not being analyzed correctly. So that's kind of the problem with using some of these intro tools, or even some of the more standard tools on the market, which is what we found.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that from my perspective, I'm constantly surprised how sometimes even huge companies, I was talking to a seller a couple of days ago, wholesale business, and they are doing a couple $1 million in revenue per month.
Wow.
And I was talking to them, they're huge. And I was talking to them and I was asking, we're discussing product picking, and we're discussing Scan Unlimited as the tool that helps to automate that process, just as SoStocked is helping automation in inventory management. And I asking like how many SKUs you have, and he says like, well, currently like on the average it's around 2,000. And I was like, okay, so how do you pick those things? Like what tools do you currently use? And the guy said like, I do it manually. And
Wow.
like I can't it was beyond my belief. Like it's not possible that such a huge successful company is doing things in such a
Yep.
manual, labor intensive way. Like that guy
Mm-hmm.
probably very overworked human,
Yeah.
because he's just sitting all the time and going manually through everything. And I feel that as Scan Unlimited is like this extremely cool solution for automating your product picking, I think every seller that's in wholesale should have also a good solution for repricing and
Mm-hmm.
inventory management. These are just three things that are like cornerstones of your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a slide here that says manual inventory management versus automation with SoStocked.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
I think it's very obvious that like we are recommending automation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that leads us to kind of the main point that I wanted to actually have your perspective on, and that is what inventory strategies are you recommending to avoid stockouts and overstock? And I know you came prepared with a little presentation as well for us.
Mhm.
So would you like me to switch there, and we could listen to you speak about it?
Yes. Yeah. If you could go ahead and share my screen, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first and foremost, I'm going to talk about some strategies that we teach, but everything, none of it's going to work unless you have if you understand daily velocity and sales velocity and how to properly analyze sales velocity. Because people think, okay, well, that's just what comes from Amazon. Amazon has my sales velocity. We export it, and that should be fine, right? We had a wholesaler, actually a large wholesaler, come into SoStocked, and he was using another software that he'd been using for years, and he'd gotten frustrated to the point where he had split out his best sellers and ran them through a custom spreadsheet because he kept stocking out. The other, he for scale, he let those other less important SKUs be run through the software to save time. But these best sellers, he absolutely couldn't stock out, so he used this spreadsheet. And yet he was still stocking out. He wanted to try SoStocked. So he plugged into SoStocked, and our sales velocity calculation, and I'll let you know why this is. We'll run through why this is, but we were saying that he was selling 15 units a day of a particular product. He said, well, the software is saying 8 units a day. My spreadsheet's saying 10 units a day, but you're saying 15 units a day. I don't understand how this could be possible. And so we call it true velocity. And this is how this actually works. Why is it possible that we could plug the same data into 3 different systems and we get a different answer? And this was one of the reasons that I created SoStocked, because I just saw that the numbers were being analyzed incorrectly, and that kind of annoyed me a little bit. So there's a couple of things that aren't being factored in. A lot of times the systems look at, did you have inventory or did you not have inventory? What they're missing is low sales days before a stock out, low sales days coming back into stock, Amazon finding a single unit and selling it during a stock out, and also listing suspensions, which if I'm just looking at whether I had inventory in stock or not, I'm going to completely miss an entire listing suspension, right? So those are some of the things that we started factoring in, and we use 100 sales a day just as a good kind of for easy math. So if you're selling 100 units a day of a product, and then you sell 23 of your last inventory right before you stock out, and then Amazon finds 1 unit and sells that unit, and then you sell 13 at the end of the day as your stuff is being checked in, coming back into stock. Those with some systems are counted as in-stock days. We look at a percentage decrease. The default is 30%. So if you are selling 100 units a day and you went below 30%, that's going to be counted as a stock out. That's variable. You can change that to 50% or 20% or whatever you want, but it is a percentage. So we're wanting to factor those things out. Say, you know what, that's going to throw off my average. If I'm looking at a 30-day average, if I don't factor those days out, it's going to significantly change my 30-day average. So I go from 100 units a day down to 90 units a day. And I'm calculating off of being short by 10 units a day. So depending on how large my order is, that's how much I'm going to be short and why I'm going to continually stock out, because I'm not calculating properly. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we call this daily adjusted velocity or true velocity, where we come from. So there's that. And then once we have this established, we want to get into some actual techniques involved. And I am not sure how much marketing people, wholesalers do. I know there's not as aggressively, you don't aggressively go after marketing campaigns the way that other sellers do, but there is that need to track things properly so that you don't stock out, and also to be able to create some sort of a strategy around moving inventory that's stale. So this is called the inventory minded marketing planner. There's actually the concept of inventory minded marketing I came up with, I'll say in the beginning of 2020, because as I talked to sellers, common denominator was that the inventory team and the marketing team weren't talking. And so the marketing team would try something really great and they would stock out the inventory team, because if you change something significantly, let's say you drop your price, you say, you know, I'm going to move this inventory faster, I'm going to drop my price, and then you don't have that burn rate is too heavy to sustain, and you run out of stock before your stock can come back in. So that's kind of the basis of inventory minded marketing, is let's get these two teams to talk together. So there, I'll go through quickly. You want to know what velocity you're using to calculate. Sometimes you're using last year's sales, right? If you're selling a seasonal product, the last 60 days probably doesn't matter if you're going into the Christmas season in the toys category. So you want to maybe look at last year's sales, and that's what your inventory team is looking at. Then you want to look at a trend. So if you're looking at last year's sales, but the product is trending up, or maybe the product is trending down, because in the toys category, trends tend to happen, you know, from year to year. So you look at what the trend is and apply a trend on top of that seasonality, for example. You can add, so you can add additional sales growth. So if you're doing PPC ads, I don't know how many people do PPC ads in wholesale, but I think some people do. And then you, especially if they have like a semi-exclusive deal with their distributor. Then if you're doing any lightning deals, you would plug in the date range. And then, you know, this could also be other sales events, but you plug in the date range, how many total units you expect to move during that time. And then lastly, any seasonal spikes that you think are going to happen. So if you have a new product and it doesn't have that last year sales history, but you feel like during the summer it's going to increase by 50%, for example, you can add that, and that would help to predict what your sell-through is going to be, so that you can be sure that you're placing your orders accordingly, not just based on, you know, the last 30 days, but also based on what's coming up throughout the seasons.
That makes a lot of sense, and actually allows you to be more mindful about your inventory. And actually, in a case where, you know, even you're a small seller and you are still kind of like, every unit can count, and every unit should count, especially that, you know, like, let's say a lot of sellers in wholesale, they start with kind of like finding products that have $2-3 markups or profit margins, and it's easiest to start from there. So, you know, like even having that every $3 is at the beginning for cash flow purposes can be of great importance.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yes. And being able to turn, if I can turn my money twice as fast as you and put it into launching more products, I'm going to make more money than you. And it's going to compound the amount of increase in my business over that time. If I can turn that inventory faster, it's not just going to be a doubling in a year. It's going to compound. So you can grow and scale a business so much faster. And that's something that I think is, I get excited about the idea of looking at those numbers in the wholesale community, because there's so much greater ability to turn money than if you have a business that takes 90 days to even get the inventory to your warehouse, let alone to sell it. So there's a lot more capacity for really diving into cash flow and how to use cash flow to your advantage.
And do you find that most sellers, the issue is being overstocked or stockouts, or actually not ordering? Is there any kind of trends going?
I think that we've had more time in the last couple of years of being overstocked and stock. Like it's been more common to do both, or to have both happen. One, because the supply chain's been so messed up, but then also because the supply chain's been so messed up, people are doing more overstocking to just in case. There's two different types of inventory management. One is called just in case inventory, and that's I have extra inventory just in case I need it. And there's just in time inventory, where it's like I get it there just in time. And we've been operating in just in time up until 2020, and now we're operating in just in case, and it's costing us more money, and Amazon's raising their fees. So that's why this next year I'm very focused on cash flows, because inflation in the US, as well as Amazon raising their fees, as well as just this shift to just in case inventory, all is going to seriously affect the bottom line. And people are not going to be ready for it until they get their, they file their taxes and they look at how much money they made versus how much, they lost or they spent. And it's, I think, going to be pretty eye-opening for people. So this next year, I think, is going to be very important for sellers to start looking at what we're doing on the cash flow side of things. So I would say, I know it's a silly answer, but I'd say both are happening right now.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I think this has been said in the beginning, but inventory management is such a cornerstone of Amazon seller business. And doesn't matter if you're private label seller, wholesale seller, even, like in some ways, in some parts of arbitrage, that will also apply, like just being smart about those things. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of people who are very often just trying to delegate immediately, like the amount of like, hey, I'm looking for a VA to help with this, and I'm always against that kind of approach, because I feel like you have to understand first every side of the business in order to be smart about it, and then you can delegate. But I also remember when I was managing an Amazon selling business, an Amazon company, like a brand of like 15 people. And I don't know what are your experiences, but my experience was that at that point, we were such a big company, but like my management was really people management rather than business management, or like in a way you would have to manage everything through people. And I feel also, on the other hand, there's a lot of sellers who are just kind of like more introverted, or they don't want to create huge businesses. They just want to have something of their own, lead their own business and build their own, freedom on their own terms, whatever that freedom, whatever that means for them. And that's why I like tools like SoStocked, because like they allow you not to be really dependent on much on the other people in a way. but you can have somebody manage that business. You can have somebody who is going to be looking on that part of the business. And for our internal Scan Unlimited audience and for our wholesale community, we actually do have a special discount for SoStocked that we are able to get. So you guys can go into the description of this video on YouTube, and there is a special link that's going to give you a bonus off. And I really do like how SoStocked is taking new members and the kind of onboarding process, and like you really care for them. So that's something that I really value, like, because I think for a lot of people just touching this this topic might seem overwhelming, right? Especially for those people who are not so data oriented, right? So like SoStocked is helping there. And I love how you guys wrote on your page, like ditch your spreadsheets. There is a better way, and I do fully agree. Like there's a smarter way than trying to evade the topic at all. And if you really want to grow, something I said, and I will say again, I think like product picking, product pricing, repricing, and then inventory management are the basis. And I do recommend SoStocked for everybody to try. Like there's no downside to that. I think like you can grow your business and you can see more of those, how is the stock going, and actually see your actual sales and track your actual sales and be prepared. And I think it's a great moment to join, because like we're coming in on, Christmas season is starting. So it's always, and Black Friday and stuff like that. So really appreciate Chelsea, you coming today and sharing a little bit about SoStocked and about like inventory management. So if people want to search more, they will go to SoStocked.com, correct?
Yes, yeah, and you can also go to SoStocked.com/connect, and that will get you to our social media. We also have links to our demo, to our tools page, and on our tools page, we do additional webinars that go more in depth about how to stay in stock, how to avoid overstock, some of the reports that might be involved in keeping track of that. So yeah, you can check that out. Check out our free tools, and we have.
Do you guys have a community? Do you guys have a community, like a Facebook community or something of that sort, where you have a conversations?
Yeah, we have a community that's currently an exclusive community for our users, but we will, I think, be bringing it public and just have that as a forum to allow people to talk about logistics and inventory, and the conversations already happen there, but we bring it to kind of a broader more open group and more open platform. And then my thoughts on that in terms of adding value, or we know a lot of people within the community, freight forwarders, sourcing agents, supply chain managers, and have them sort of start to add additional value and share some insights as well. So it's not just community-based, but it's also some of the best things I've learned are from, 3PL owners. Why does my inventory get checked in? Oh, that's because you need to ask your 3PL about a live unload. That means that they're going to unload your inventory as soon as it arrives, and that they're not going to dump it and have it sit in the parking lot for 6 weeks, which is what a lot of people experience. So those little gems are things that, I talked to a friend of mine on the phone, and he's saying these things, and I'm just starting to write them down like crazy. Some of these guys are these industry guys are some of the smartest people in the room when it comes to this stuff, and yet no one's asking them any questions. So I get excited when I get to talk to these people and then share this with the community, and then I look very smart.
That's the way to go. That's what I do. I talk to smart people like you, and then act like I did all the work. So you discovered my secret technique here in front of everybody. But definitely we recommend. I also recommend to check out and connect with SoStocked, because like that is a very cool geeky community that you guys have there. Like, and you know, I think we should be bringing inventory management more to the conversation. And I think it can be a really sexy topic instead of being like this dreadful, like, oh my God, what is going on, like this inventory management. But it's
Yeah.
really not, and it can be fun, it can be exciting. And I'm
Yes.
super excited you were here with us, Chelsea, because you showed that, you know, it actually can be both fun, but also great way for your business to grow.
Yes,
So
exactly.
wanted to really thank you, Chelsea, for taking this half an hour with us, and hope that maybe you'll once in a while you'll join the community as well, and more community calls. Hopefully we can once we have some cash flow conversations going in 2023, maybe you would join us for a moment to update the community as well.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chelsea.